Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Stop Hurting and Start Healing. My name is Gaspar Anastasi, and this is my lovely wife, Michele.
Hi, everyone.
And we are very blessed to be here with you again. You know, we hope that this TV show is a blessing to you, and we look forward to hearing from you. Your comments mean an awful lot to us, and if you have any questions you'd like us to answer on the air, we would love to do that. We're going to be talking about a subject that a lot of folks are unaware of, but it is a very important subject as far as family unity, as far as family healing, and even as far as the destiny of families themselves, and that is sibling rivalry.
Yes.
You know, I think we see a good picture of that when we look in the book of Genesis and we look at Joseph, the story of Joseph. And we all know the story that he had this great coat of many colors. And God seemed to have favored him with a great gift of dreams and interpretation of dreams. And there was one brother, I'm sure all of them were affected by it, but one in particular by the name of Reuben that really was upset about it. It seemed like his father, Jacob, really was spending more time and showing more encouragement and more love to him.
Well, the scriptures say that that he did. The dad did love Joseph more than his other sons, so it wasn't really something that they had imagined.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't something that they imagined. In this case, it was a reality.
Yes.
And that's called sibling rivalry. You know, when someone feels that they're being slighted or maybe in favor of another sibling, or they're being rejected and the other sibling's being accepted, or the other sibling is being boasted on and certainly lifted up and encouraged more than them, and there are other issues, that creates a sibling rivalry.
Yes.
And it can be very, very destructive in a family, and certainly destructive between the siblings. But it doesn't just stay there. It gets carried over and over and over again. I think of my particular circumstance where my mother has two children. And it was never in my mind or thoughts that my mother loved me more. But in my sibling rivalry with my own other member of the family, they thought that mother loved me more than them. And it was something that I didn't recognize until later on in life, and it became a very decisive and divisive tool that the enemy used to separate mother and child, and really even separate brother from the other sibling. It was a real big issue, and it really became a tool that the devil used tremendously to divide the family. And I think in my case, I wasn't aware of it. There wasn't any understanding on my part. And I think that happens quite often when there is a sibling rivalry. The one that feels slighted, the one that feels rejected, the one that feels like they're not being favored and the other one is, the ones that are being favored and the ones that seem to be lifted up, they're unaware of it. There's an unawareness that they have within themselves. And it's amazing how Satan can use that to blind families and really bring division to the family.
Or even break families up where, they don't even speak to each other anymore, and of all relationships in the family, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for those that are going through it, and it's also heartbreaking for the parents to see it. And, or in the case of this scripture, that was true. The father was showing
the extra favor.
He was showing favor because if you remember, he had two wives, and Joseph was the son of his favored wife. Right. So, but often it's not the case. Often parents, loving all their children equally, but then the enemy comes in and just plant seeds. They're seeds of rejection, and one child feels that they're less loved and less favored than the others in the family.
Yeah, many times it goes unnoticed. It's not something that really is spoken about quite often. There's a tension that builds within that particular child, and that begins to build momentum as time goes on. And in this case, Reuben and the rest of the brothers, I mean, they must have all felt the same way, threw Joseph into the cave and really intended to kill him. And to do away with that problem of having the father favor Joseph more than the rest of them. Now, you know, they also felt like God was favoring him too. And I think sometimes
Yes.
a sibling rivalry can come where we get angry at God. And we say, how come you love my sister or my brother more than you love me? And you could actually get angry at God and begin to walk away from God because of that. Sibling rivalry is a tool in the hands of the enemy that really can separate brothers and sisters, brothers from brothers, sisters from sisters, and certainly destroy families.
Another scenario that we've seen is where there is a problem child in the family, and the problem child gets the attention. You know, the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Yeah. And then it leaves the other siblings feeling like, well, they're more loved by mom and dad. They're getting all the attention. They're getting all the love. They're getting all the time.
Right. And, you know, Satan loves to jump on that and really build a case about mothers and fathers, maybe one or the other or both, that they love so-and-so better than they love them. And that case can be very, very strong to where it becomes a major deception. Totally the perception is off base, but, you know, that person doesn't know. It's like coming into a room with rose-colored sunglasses on. No matter what you tell that person, everything looks rosy because that's the way they see life through those lenses. And in sibling rivalry, you have the way of looking at that. And nothing makes sense to you. Everything is just the way you see it, just the way you imagine it, and many times the way you feel it. And Satan loves to jump on that. Now, it is true in the case of Jacob with Joseph here, the parents do have to be very careful of what they do and how they share their love. They need to make sure that they're sharing it equally and make it known over and over again that they love their children.
Equally.
Could be two, equally.
Yes.
And that needs to be spoken over and over again to reveal to what Satan would try to do. And even let our kids know that, listen, Satan's going to try to do that. If you have any doubt about how much we love you, come and talk about it. But I think parents need to take a look at their lives and see how they've been, doing this with their children. Unfortunately, in our case, in my case in particular, we were already well on our way in age, married and have children already gone. And it was amazing to me that when I began to speak with my sibling, their perception of the same mother that we had, it was just an amazing revelation to me.
Totally different.
Totally different. Yeah. I saw the woman as being kind and generous and loving. My sibling saw her as being hateful and creating sides and not loving and not caring. Two different women, but yet the same mother. And it really was an amazing perception that the sibling that had the sibling rivalry really was experiencing. Now we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit more. It's a real issue. You might be on the end where you are that sibling that's feeling slighted, or you might be the other way around, like me. We're going to come back and talk about that in a few minutes and show and teach some solutions.
Seasons come and go, so if you've lingered in the bitter winter of anger and unforgiveness, it's time to step into the warmth of spring. Pastor Anastasi's brand new book, Stop Hurting, Start Healing, shows you how, with a wealth of practical wisdom, plus helpful study guides and prayers to help you start to live again. Get Stop Hurting, Start Healing today for a donation of just $14.99. Call 274-8881 or go to WOLM.net.
It's not your money, it's your weapon. It's God's weapon that He gave you. It's about taking your sword and wield it around and begin to take down the enemy against your finances, against your health, against the seed that you've sown.
Get this amazing new 3-CD series from Pastor Anastasi called Wage Spiritual Warfare with Your Tithe for a donation of just $12 to Word of Life Ministries. Call 274-8881 or go to WOLM.net because
you need to know how to fight this battle.
Welcome back, everybody, to Stop Hurting, Start Healing. My name is Gaspar, and this is my lovely wife, Michele. And we're talking about sibling rivalries and how, in a lot of ways, deceptive it is. And many times it's not spoken about. But yet it can lead to violence. It can lead to actually destruction of families and generations that go ahead and follow it. And so, in my case, as we were talking about it, my sibling happened to see the same mother that we had from a totally different perception.
Yes.
I was very much unaware of that there was a sibling rivalry. I heard once in a while little things, but never really paid too much attention to it. In fact, quite the contrary. I actually thought that my mother favored my sibling. So I never felt like, cheated or maybe having something stolen from me. And that's what happens when you are dealing with sibling rivalry. If you're the one that's on that short end, you feel like something's been stolen from you. And you have a great resentment and even a great bitterness. So when we got together as siblings and began to talk about our mom, it was amazing that we had totally two different pictures of the same mom. As I said before, I was seeing my mom as loving and caring, compassionate, as a giver, and my siblings saw her as one that chose sides, that favored me and put that child down, and just didn't like that child and felt very much unwanted and unloved, and I knew that completely as a deception from the enemy.
I think that in a case like that, you have to know then that the enemy has played a very big part in this. That he has gotten in there. He has caused certain things to transpire, certain attitudes to be built. When two people have such a difference of opinion. With me, I have one sister as well. Mm-hmm. She was my baby sister, 7 years younger than me, so there was a big age difference, and quite frankly, I knew that she was my mom's favorite, and my mom didn't. It's not even like my mom denied it. I saw it differently, though. My sister was a much more compliant child, much easier to raise for my mother. I gave my mother a harder time, but I still, even though she favored my sister, I knew she loved me. So there really wasn't that sibling rivalry that.
Well, you were able to justify it in your heart and recognize that the reason why she might have loved your sister more, at least showed it, was the fact that you really did give her a hard time. I think in some cases that's absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. But there is no sibling rivalry. I mean, that's already done away with.
No, because I didn't, even the preference that my mom gave to my sister, I didn't hold that against my sister.
Yeah, a sibling rivalry creates jealousy, envy. It brings in a strong contention with competition, of trying to prove yourself as being as worthy as the other child is. And I mean child, it could be 50, 60 years old, because this carries on from age to age. And unfortunately, a lot of people today that are separated from their siblings because of sibling rivalry. And the enemy loves to do that. And you're absolutely correct. This is a warfare that Satan will use as a tool. And there's many tools, but this is one of them, that to separate families, and to bring where people choose sides, mm-hmm. and to actually even choose sides in husbands and wives and marriages, and it can bring destruction in all aspects of life.
I think also we see it where dads will maybe pay more attention to their sons than their daughters.
Maybe because they're more athletic, or because they're closer to the male side of it than the female. Or vice versa, by the way. It can be the other way around. Let's say the son wasn't as athletic as the father, and so he doesn't pay as much attention to him and pays more attention to the daughter, who might be athletic. Yeah. So there's a lot of reasons that parents
There's lots of different scenarios in there, and the thing is, it's just one other way for the enemy to come, steal, kill, and destroy, and come against families, to break up families.
When a person thinks that they aren't as loved or respected or honored as the other child or children, that becomes a perception that begins to rule their lives and cause actions and reactions that many times are unexplainable. But on the other hand, it's real to them. It's not something that you can talk away. Just words alone are not enough. There has to be an inner healing for that. There has to be a tearing down of some of these strongholds that have painted these pictures.
Vain imaginations torn down.
Yeah, and this is real. I mean, whether you're a young child or an older one, In fact, if you're older, then this becomes more rooted and more grounded, and more than likely you're already separated from your siblings, and you've already built a case and why you can never, and in fact, be with them or even accept them. You could also build a case why your parents aren't as close to you as that you should be, because they love the other one more than you, and you start to build this whole case. Of course, with the help of Satan. Yeah. So in some of the causes, let's talk about some of the causes real quick. One of them, of course, is Satan. He loves to come and put that deception, yes. And it might have nothing to do with the parents at all. The parents might be unaware. Other siblings might not be aware of it. And certainly in my case, I believe that's exactly what it was. But that person is a victim. They have now been victimized, yes. by these lies. And maybe the way they were created, something clicked it in their hearts and stirred them up with rejection, and then the case was built. It can certainly come because of parents, where they are not aware of what they're doing, and it might be for a good cause, like you said. Maybe the one child is a little more dysfunctional, or maybe you have more and more in common with the other child, and you seem to just get along better.
But that doesn't justify it.
No, it doesn't justify it at all.
No.
But these are some of the reasons. Or like you said, one child is easy to correct, the other one is not. So you have a tendency to do that. But it can be parents, and I think as parents that we need to make sure that we're not the cause of continued sibling rivalry, and if we are, then we need to get the record straight right away and then work on that. But remember, words alone are not enough. So you're going to find that there needs to be deeper than that.
Yes. Actions speak louder than words,
yeah.
And we really have to show out. We have to show our children that we love them, and every single one of them is favored.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's more than just giving them money. It's more than just, taking them on a vacation or whatever, things like that, when I call material things. It's really the emotional, yes. and the intimacy that is important, because you really know when you're accepted when there's intimacy, when you sense that within your spirit. So one of the solutions is to get intimate with your sibling, number one, but certainly get intimate with the one who's struggling with the sibling rivalry aspect of life. Now we're going to come back and talk about some solutions, because there are some that we mentioned a couple, but we want to go a little deeper in it. It's a big problem. It's something that today sibling rivalry is not necessarily spoken about a lot, except if it's really blown out of proportion, but it's something that's there and common in a lot of families. And we want to talk about not only the identification of it, but we want to talk about the solutions, which we'll do in our next segment. We welcome you to come on back, and we hope that you're enjoying this. And certainly, if there is sibling rivalry in your family, you don't want to miss this last part. We'll be right back right after these announcements.
If you're standing on God's promises today, don't give up too soon. God says, don't give up. God's promises, you have need of patience, are still going to come to pass. Breakthrough in your marriage, no matter what the circumstances say. Don't give up on the promise. So God will give you the ability to accomplish the task. God's about to open the heavens and pour you out a blessing. Don't quit.
This dynamic new 3-CD series from Pastor Anastasi, Don't Quit Too Soon, can be yours for a donation of just $12 to this ministry. Call 274-8881 or go to WOLM.net.
Every one of us at any one time can fall. We could trip. We could make a mistake. But we don't have to stay fallen. The good news is that God's provided a way for us to get up.
Introducing a powerful new 3-CD series from Pastor Anastasi, You've Fallen, Now Get Up. Available in our bookstore and at WOLM.net for a donation of just $12. Get it before they're gone.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to talk about some solutions now to sibling rivalry. And we mentioned a few, and that one of them, of course, is that there is a demonic attack in this, and that parents, especially parents, need to do spiritual warfare for their children.
Yes.
No matter how old they are, whether they're in their home or not. Spiritual warfare is a major component to bring the solution of healing, because there's a strong deception in their lives that no matter what you say, I mean, I remember talking to my sibling and trying to reason it out, and no matter what I said, that was the way they saw it. That was the way because the way you see it is the way you believe it. And as long as that belief system is there concerning,
Yes.
you know, your parents or parent, there's no, you can stand on your head. It's not going to work.
It's not just believing. There are actual wounds within the soul of a person that go so deep. Memories and wounds, the way they've seen it, the way they've experienced it, the way they've perceived it, that just doesn't go away with a conversation. And that's where prayer ministry could play such a huge
Yeah, inner healing is a big aspect to this. So not only is the spiritual warfare, 2 Corinthians chapter 10, 3 through 5 says, though we walk in the flesh, we don't live in the flesh. And that we are fighting against these spiritual forces, and we're to tear down those strongholds. And that's a stronghold. That's a perception that has become a stronghold in that sibling's mind. That again, no matter what you say, it's not going to make a difference to them. So one is the spiritual warfare and attacking that from the spiritual realm. And I think parents need to be the ones to do that, or even the other sibling for that matter, once they recognize it. And then number two, prayer ministry. And that's what we really see happening, that once people are open to this idea that they are a victim of the enemy, whether it's true or not, the parent or parents were favoring the other sibling or not, but you want to get healed from that, then the prayer ministry really begins to take a hold and tears down the pictures that's in their heart. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be. So the thinking process has to change. There's a renewing of the mind. We got to get rid of the ungodly beliefs concerning your parents, concerning the whole scenario that you're less worthy than your sibling, that something's been sold. Yeah, all those things. Yeah, and so the prayer ministry is very, very important in a step to receive healing. And by the way, we want to offer to you the CD on Family First. If you would give us a call, let us know that you watch this TV show and you would like a copy of that CD, we would like to send it out to you free. And that's Family First. We did a teaching on that. In fact, there's a whole series. If you'd like to purchase the series, you can also do that as well. But that one CD that I spoke on Sunday, I'd like to give that to you free. I think it'll help for you to understand how this warfare goes and some of the steps that you need to take to get set free. So we talked about prayer ministry, and that's a detailed thing, and that's something that you have to allow the Holy Spirit to go inside your depths of your memories and thoughts, and we've seen great success in that, haven't we?
And a part of the prayer ministry is breaking ancestral sins, because often we see that in this type of spirit, this type of wound being carried down from one generation to the next generation to the next. It's like the enemy, you know, sees that he's got a place in a particular family, and he'll carry down from one generation to the next this particular situation, sin.
Sure, it's like the Hatfield and McCoys, you know, that's just something that's so historic and that has happened down from generation to generation. When they get down to the next generation, they don't even know why they hate each other, but they just know they hate each other. And certainly in sibling rivalry, that is a demon spirit. And once you give into it, it becomes a sin, unless it's identified. And this is why it's important for you today, as a family, that identify it and address it, confront it. Otherwise, it'll get passed down to the next generation. I think, you know, in many cases, we see that over and over again. And we don't necessarily take that as a valuable tool, or being validated that something that's ancestral gets carried down, but it does. You know, doctors today ask you the question, did your father have a heart attack? Does your mother or father have sugar diabetes? Because they're catching up to the Bible that now recognizes
intergenerational and passed down.
The sins of the father and are carried down. The curses that are placed over families are carried down. I would classify this as a curse. A generational curse, and not just only a sin, but a generational curse that comes over families. So if you look back into your family, and you know, I think about it with my mother. She had issues with her sister, sisters. And there was always that concept in their heart that their mother loved my mother a whole lot more than the other sister. So that was something that was carried down into her family, and then we dealt with it. And it is a curse. And curses are meant to be broken. Jesus became a curse for us. And so he hung on the tree and paid the price for not only the sin, but the curse, so that we can now have the blessings. And we can get rid of the curse and release a blessing and break the cycle of sibling rivalry. You might say, well, it's only my generation, so I can deal with it. No, no, no. Don't just let it happen. Take hold of it.
Yes.
Do something about it. And protect the next generation, your seed and your seed's seed. Because it will affect the next generation, won't it?
Yes, it will.
Yeah. Now, some of the results, and we talked about this in general, but let's talk about it a little bit more for the next couple of minutes, of sibling rivalry. One of them is breaks up families.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see in my circumstance, it really did. It separated the relationship, not just only with my sibling, but my siblings' children. So now I get carried down. Because don't forget, my sibling feeling that that they were, rejected and slighted, they passed it down to their children, and then their children's children. So now you have generations now taking sides.
Right.
And it affected my relationship because they thought I should have done something about it. Well, what could I do about it? Because I didn't see it. And I spoke about it many times with my mother, and never knew my mother to ever do that. In fact, quite the contrary. So it can break up a family, which is sad. And there needs to be a confrontation of it, and really a prayer that's going to help to set the family free.
And then, probably prayer is the first thing, because usually when people are so hurt and wounded, they don't want to get together and talk and work things out. And so really, I think you said it before, parents getting together and doing spiritual warfare for their family.
And if you get the whole family together, that's even better, and start to pray together that doesn't happen. And then a second and third thing together is strife and discord, where there's a lot of strife and discord in the family, which then could lead to violence. I remember my two cousins, which was on my mother's side, two brothers, and they used to always get on each other's nerves to where they were actually fistfights.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the middle of one of them, and they were like, again, because of that same sibling rivalry.
Didn't Cain kill Abel?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another sibling rivalry issue. And Jacob and Esau. And there's quite a few of them in the scriptures. And you would look at even another character in the Bible, which I just slipped my mind for a moment, and that is Absalom and Solomon and the rest of his family, where he thought he was the better, and he tried to take over the kingdom. So it can definitely separate, divide, and even destroy families. And it's God wanting us to deal with it, to identify it, and to do something about it. Those of us that are Christians, that have the Holy Spirit living in us, sibling rivalry should not be taken lightly. It is a big issue. And it needs to not just be swept under the table or put on a shelf. It needs to be confronted. And as parents, you're the first ones to do it. And allow the Holy Spirit to help. And if you can't reason and rationalize, which many times you can't, then the warfare is very important in the spiritual sense. Well, Michele and I are so grateful that you are able to tune in and watch Stop Hurting, Start Healing. We're very blessed that we can be together and be a help in any way we can. Remember the website, StopHurtingStartHealing.com. You spell it out, StopHurtingStartHealing.com. And there's plenty of information that not only helps you to know what we're doing, the conference we're having, but also materials that you can have and get. And certainly if you want to post some questions and read our blog, Michele and Gaspar blog. We have some information there. God bless you. See you next week.